This is our Jamaat's Our Land here on IBN Channel 8. Today on our program, we are discussing the agenda for reform, a close look at the future of the Anjuman Sunnatul Jamaat Association, by far the largest single Muslim association in Trinidad and Tobago. And my guest this morning, we're very pleased to welcome Haji Nizam Mohammed, former Vice President of the ASJA, and from what we have heard so far, he's very concerned about the future of the ASJA, aren't you, Haji Saib?
I am very distressed and I'm very concerned. And
one of the things about the ASJA is that it has had a long history of some very distinguished people who have held the positions as President of the ASJA. We're talking about Sheikh Syed Muhammad Hussein, Haji John Mohammed, may Almighty Allah bless his soul, Haji Muhammad Ibrahim, may Almighty Allah bless his soul, Haji Shafiqul Rahman of revered memory, may Almighty Allah bless his soul, Haji Abdul Sattar, Dr. Mansur Ibrahim, who is still alive, Brother Saeed Sattar, Haji Yaqub Ali, who passed away recently, and the present president is Brother Zainul Sarafat. You were associated with any of those gentlemen?
of course, as a child, you know, I remember I have slight memories of Haji M.I., that is Dr. Mansour's father.
Yeah.
And that Haji...
But you worked with Haji Shafiq?
Well, that is a very... I worked with him. He is responsible for me being a Muslim.
Alhamdulillah. Tell us that story. I want you to tell me that story. That's a very interesting. How was your relationship with Haji Shafiqul Rahman in terms of your deen?
I did not know him. I had just come out of school. My parents were poor people. And it is an emotional story.
Inshallah.
It is an emotional story. And we knew nobody. I had an aunt. She was married to a Salamat in Barakpur. They owned a bus concession.
Okay.
My father went to him. He knew people. We didn't know anybody. And he said he will talk to Haji Shafiq Rahman. But in the interim, I wrote an application to the people I knew. I grew up in the Presbyterian schools, and they took care of us as children and so on in the primary school and all of that. And unknown to my parents, I wrote an application for a teaching job and addressed it to the Presbyterian Education Board. And I concluded my application by saying, I am willing to become a Presbyterian without in consultation with anybody. And this teacher of mine in primary school, who treated me like a son, Allah put it in this way. I met him. What are you doing? And he was a very authoritative person. What are you doing? I said, well, I have passed my exams, senior Cambridge and so on, and I've applied for a job. He said, where did you apply? I said, I applied to the Presbyterians. He said, no. You shouldn't apply to them. They will want you to become a Presbyterian. And you come from a good Muslim home. How can you do that? I said, well, I need a job. He said, meet me on Saturday morning, San Fernando, Rambaran's Pharmacy. And I met him Saturday at 12 o'clock, hot sun. This man held my hand and crossed the busy street. I was very embarrassed, he holding my hand. I don't know San Fernando, and he took me, we walked this long distance, and he went and he called out to Haji Shafiq Rahman, who came out in a pajama midday, and apparently he was reading a novel, a paperback novel, and he accommodated us and so on, and this man introduced me to Haji Shafiq, and he told Haji Shafiq, I don't want this boy to leave Islam, and I want him to be a teacher, and I want him to work in a Muslim school. Haji Shafiq said, go and get a recommendation from your imam and put in your application to our board. I had to write out the recommendation for my poor imam, who signed it And I did my application, and in a few weeks' time, the Point 14 school was opened, the primary school.
And Point 14.
And I was appointed at Point 14. As a teacher in a Muslim school, you have to learn Islam. You have to learn Islam to teach the children Islam. And I started learning a little bit. I haven't learned much, but I tell you.
So your relationship with Haji Shafiq Rahman goes back a long way.
Long way.
And his involvement as the President General of ASJA. How was that, working with him in that regard?
Haji Shafiq Rahman, he was a very, very powerful leader.
Because all of the ASJA schools, the secondary and the primary schools, is through his efforts.
Through his efforts.
Yeah.
He had a very lively Anjuman, right? And after his time, we had Haji Sattar. He was like a father to me.
Right.
And very unassuming and very quiet, different to Haji Shafiq Rahman. But his approach was such that he would bring a peaceful
resolution,
a peaceful feeling amongst people when we sit to talk and that kind of thing. And I had the honor of working under under Dr. Mansour Ibrahim as his first vice president.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you know, well, Haji Mansour is the only one surviving from all of the past presidents. Do you think you can utilize Haji Mansour Ibrahim to help resolve this issue?
He is so infuriated. And more than that, he's so disillusioned more than infuriated. He says, don't talk to me about that. You know, as if he doesn't have the energy. Yet, if he gets transport, he will leave Port of Spain and go San Fernando on a Friday and deliver a magnificent khutbah, you know.
Yeah, he's like
you
that.
know? And I have spoken with him, but I have felt the hurt, and I have not involved him. And perhaps a good idea is to get his son involved. His son is the vice president of the Senate.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good idea that you have raised that point. But he will come if he sees something tangible is happening, as we are asking everybody else, you know. And we are going, if we have to go from Jamaat to Jamaat, my brother Jamal, we are going to do it, right? And I'm telling them up front, my generation, we owe this to the Anjuman. We owe this to the community.
Inshallah,
We owe this to Allah as an act of gratitude. We owe this, and we have to discharge this responsibility. It is an onerous responsibility, and we must do it. You think at my age, my friend, my brother, you know, for me to be engaged in something like this, when I should be in a little corner in the masjid very quietly and so on. But the situation demands intervention. And it really hurts when you try to sit down with people, with members of the community, and you try to reason with them and explain to them, we are doing this for the love of the deen, for the promotion. You just think for a moment the situation in our country, the political situation in our country, the crime situation in our country, the social conditions under which we are laboring. And you know, as every other Muslim ought to know, that we can provide leadership for this country. Love, cooperation, charity, togetherness. Everybody tells you how they admire the structure of this deen, the way we carry about ourselves. In the time of your late uncle, Kamaluddin Muhammad, they were the ones who flew the flag then. And he took time off from his busy schedule, 20, 30 years as a minister of government. But he had the time to go and do the dawah work. All over the country he did it. And if we do not do it, wouldn't we be abdicating our responsibility? And I am telling my friends, those imams out there, and I am telling the members of the Jamaats out there. I'm telling the professional people who, because they are so disgusted, they don't want to get involved because they can't tolerate the kind of conflict situations that we are always finding ourselves in. I am telling them, listen, this is the legacy that we have inherited from Haji Shafiq Rahman and Mansour Ibrahim and our dear brother in his short stint, Said Sattar and his dad and so on. And look at what Anjuman has done for me. I went to teachers college. I'm a graduate school teacher. I'm a professional school teacher. Anjuman provided that and gave me an opportunity. I was the form master of the first common entrance intake in ASJA Boys College in San Fernando. And in 2022, we have the liveliest class that came out of ASJA, Park Street in San Fernando.
Alhamdulillah for that.
And we are the class of 1966. And I was there for master. And we have doctors, we have engineers, we have accountants, all kinds of professionals, men who drove heavy equipment for their living. They're all retirees now. And all of us, our heart is still with our alma mater. I taught there. And I was one of the first professional teachers to put the ASJA Boys College on a footing that will conform with government's requirements, because I went there when government decided to give state aid to that boys' college. So we have the personnel all over the country. Why can't we get together?
That's another issue,
and do it for the love of Allah and the love of this deen.
The case of Muslim unity in Trinidad and Tobago, coming together of the ASJA, the TIA, the TML, and all the other Muslim organizations to achieve Muslim unity. The ASJA has an important role to play.
And a critical role to play. Look, the other day, emancipation. There is a big disconnect, a great disconnect between our Afro brothers and sisters and us. Nobody is bridging that gap, right? I wrote to the ASJA executive and I said, let us facilitate our Afro brothers and sisters. Let them put together a program for emancipation, because all of us, Islam is about emancipation. Islam is all about emancipation of the individual. So let us, provide that kind of support structure for them. They said, we have voted a resounding no. You are not to use our markers in Charlieville. So we went to Warrenville in a community center, and the Afro brothers and sisters. You know one of those whom they honored? Haji Yusuf Mitchell.
Yes, that is one,
One of the stalwarts of the Anjuman. They honored him on that day in their emancipation celebrations.
Very nice.
So, and they recognize the Anjuman, but the Anjuman does not want to have anything to do with them for reasons best known to themselves.
Haji Nizam, we have a few minutes to go again. How do you see this playing out for the future?
How do I see this playing out? I tell you, if we get Muslims who love this deen and who understand what we are doing, and that what is required is total unity, cleansing. Let it be a cleansing exercise for us as individuals and as a community. Purification and purification of our intention. Purify our intention. Why are we doing what we are doing? Let us come together and let us do it with the love that Islam is inherently built upon. Love of our Rasul, love of Allah, love of the brethren. Let us do it. We will have people younger than me who will come forward, and they will be willing to take positions at the regional level, at the executive level, at the Jamaat level, and we can have a revolution in this country.
This program reaches the majority of the ASJA Jamaats in our country. As you're talking about revising and restructuring the constitution, what advice would you like to give the imams and the members of the ASJA in the various Jamaats?
I am telling them, we are at their service, and we are willing to come and talk with them. We are willing to help them to draft recommendations if they wish to make submissions to the Constitution Review Committee. I am telling them that this is, there are those of us, me particularly, do you expect me to go for office? Because this is the first thing when you open your mouth to stand up for what is right in our community, he's looking for position, and he's looking for office. You know? I have seen a post in one of our chats, a young imam. He says, since the demise of Yaqub Ali, we see the emergence of retired politicians and retired politicians and legal people. The only one who is the legal person in this, and the only one who was the politician in this is me. So the first thing he's thinking about is I coming here for something to put in my pocket.
But that's not true.
I am almost 82 years of age. Do you think my family will allow me to take that kind of responsibility? I have had to ask somebody to drive me up here today to keep this appointment with you.
Thank you very much.
You understand?
Yeah.
But I am trying to tell them, don't look at personalities and don't personalize this thing.
One of the problems I see you are facing is the present executive of the ASJA and non-cooperative. And I ask you again, how do you propose to resolve that issue based on what you have said?
I am willing, my brother Jamal, Allah is my witness. I am willing to sit with them around a table at any time of the day or the night. And I am willing to talk in a peaceful way, in a constructive way, doing things in accordance with Sharia, following Quran, following Sunnah, and following the law of the land. Let us do that. And we, as I said, no acrimony, no hard feelings, right? Because in the final analysis, I am no judge, and I am no judge of no man, and it's Allah who will judge all of us in the final analysis.
And your closing comments for this morning before we wrap up?
I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I want to ask you and our brother Inshan Ismail if we can continue to use this platform, this forum, to communicate with the Jamaats out there. We will be most grateful. People might be tired of hearing me alone. We can have others come and sit with you and chat and tell you about the progress that we are making. We are getting, initially, we are having some nice feedback, and the interest seems to be building up. But we need the communication links in order to accelerate what we are doing, and time is running out.
Okay, well, Haji Nizam Mohammed, I want to assure you that you have the full support of this program, Our Jamaats, Our Land. This is about the Jamaats of our country, so it impacts everybody.
Of course.
You can come here to share and communicate with the imams in the various Jamaats, all aspects of this agenda for reform within the Anjuman Sunnatul Jamaat Association. We want to thank you for spending this past hour with us. As we thank you very sincerely, brothers and sisters, for your time on our program this morning. We leave you with an invitation to join us next Sunday, just around 11 o'clock in the morning, when inshallah we shall be back in the studio, if not with Haji Nizam, with other members of the Reform Committee to bring you the latest news with regards to the Anjuman Sunnatul Jamaat Association. So on behalf of Siddiq and Saif and everyone here at IBN, my name is Jamal, bidding you adabars, Khuda Hafiz, and Assalamu Alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.